Hello, my beloved listeners. This is Katherine Larange, your host of the My Dead Dragon podcast, and I am so excited to be spending this time together, and thank you so much for tuning in. And today I'm in conversation with Denise Belisle, who is the founder of Denise Belisle in Motion Coaching, and she is a serenity expert and positive intelligence specialist, and her 40 years of meditation practice and innate nature to look for the gift in anything around her allows her to guide her clients to new levels that were inaccessible for them before. And so Denise, meditation for 40 years, I am just like, I'm doing like a Wayne's World. I'm not worthy. Wow. So I'm so excited to have you on the podcast today. Really looking forward to hearing your story. And can you kind of start me out by sharing what is your story?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, meditation for 40 years. That's I was in my teen when I started to do meditation. Unfortunately, I wish I was 2, then I would be 42. But anyway, and then through times, at that time, I was in I'm still I am rather, in a spiritual group. But at that time, we would do 2 weeks of spiritual retreat every summer.
Wow.
So every summer we would go and immerse ourselves into awareness, into developing consciousness, and et cetera, in the 80s, we used to go, and kind of the late hippie type of movement. And
hippie
but then
2.0.
But over the time, what happened is that it stick to me, right? It stick to me, the different ways of thinking and the way to acting and the way to live my life. Because I had not started with a really good start. I had my upbringing quickly I was the baby of 6, and I was not the one that was cherished. I was more the one that, I don't want to take my sister with me, type of thing, right?
Yeah.
And it developed a way of being that was not very positive. And I felt that because I was not strong enough to hit my sibling, I would hit them verbally. So I was starting to be very negative. So when I joined that group, then I kind of opened my mind to kindness. I opened my mind to being more loving and caring, and changing the way I see life, changing the way I see my life. And that my worth doesn't depend on other people. My worth was depending on myself and all of that. So that's where it started. And a little bit, when you talk about your dragon, it's almost like I decided that I need to take responsibility of my own life if I want to be happy. I cannot depend on other people to bring me happiness. It's up to me to do it. So that's a start. That's where it started.
And so in that noticing, so I love that, noticing, okay, it's up to me. Did you know at that point in time that you were inherently worthy of happiness?
It takes a while when you first start to do it. I had this affiliation with that group, but you kind of do it on your own. I was not being like held by the hand and coached. So there's ups and downs, right? And then I read more self-awareness book. I read more knowledge, getting more practice, different type of workshop that I attended, and to work on myself, because it's something that I didn't found that it was sticking to me. There was these old patterns that would come back and talk to me and telling me that I'm not good enough. But there's times where I did greatness. Another time that I used my dragon is when I lived in Toronto, I was in my 30s. And then actually I was in Ottawa at the time, but then I had the opportunity to move to Vancouver, British Columbia. But at the time I was in a relationship that was really not going anywhere. My boyfriend was dependent on me financially. I had to pay for everything. We had no quality of life because one salary for 2 people, then I was not making a ton of money. It was just bare minimum. And when I had the opportunity to move here, I said, that's a I decision. It's not a we decision. Where are you going? So it was like breaking up all that I had back east with that relationship, and somehow with my family, not that I had anything wrong with my family, but moving all across the country from being close to Montreal, where my family is, to decide to go to Vancouver. It was a big snap. It was a big change. Luckily, phone and internet's there, but but that was a big decision, like wear your big girl's pants and, go live your life and go find yourself and go discover yourself. And that was another big step into developing my own awareness of myself and what do I want to have in my life, what kind of life do I want to experience, etc. So all of that together allowed me to really move forward and become a better person.
And so in that journey of really, noticing and realizing, okay, it's up to me. If I want to be happy, I'm the one who needs to figure it out. And then kind of navigating that, what were some of the things that you did to really build your believing that you were worth it, that you could do this, that you deserve to be happy and have a life that you really loved?
So the belief that I had that made me think that I was worth it, that made me believe that I deserved love.
Yeah. How did you build that?
Over time,
Yeah.
But one thing that was very big in my learning process when I first started to learn about emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence is, first you start to recognize your own emotion inside yourself, like the emotion that you have on a daily basis, and then you become aware of them, and then you know that you're upset, you become aware of them, and then recognizing the emotion of others and reading their emotion, knowing that when someone is happy, someone is upset, recognizing that and recognizing what they are at, and then the relationship you can have now with people. So that helped me a lot into taking responsibilities for my emotion, as opposed to blaming others about the type of emotion that it can bring. And then I was just, I didn't know initially what to do with my own emotion, but then eventually I decided to be able to move forward and take responsibilities for everything that's going on in my life.
Yeah.
So and then from there, so that was not too long after I moved to Vancouver, because then it was sort of a renewal of my own life.
Yeah.
And then when I was moving forward, then I was like, okay, and it's really discovering myself. What do I want to do with my life? Where do I want to go? How do I want to expand the life around me? And how do I want to live? And then I did courses and I did seminars and to develop that. And I took courses on positive intelligence. And then later through life, I decided to become a coach myself, because I was like, I've learned so much and I would love to be able to share what I've learned over the years to be able to move forward and help others. And that's how it all started, of me becoming a coach and being able to help other people. And again, took a bunch of courses, just to learn to do it properly, because you don't want to go screw around with people's mind and take them in the wrong road.
Right, because that's a thing. That's a thing. And so I want to kind of go back, Denise, to the emotional intelligence, and really, I think depending on where people are in the journey, in the beginning, when we start to really tune into ourselves, there can be sometimes a feeling of overwhelm, especially if there's been a pattern of stuffing the emotions or, kind of ignoring them, or like, I need to be strong, I need to figure this out, I need to kind of not look at those things. And so certainly what I've, what I see with people I work with and have experienced in my life is that when we start to unpack that it can feel like a bit of a volcano, because there's so much that's been stored. And then how would you suggest that people navigate that And how would they then start to learn how to understand what the different emotions are, to be able to put, oh, that's anger, that's sadness, that's happiness, that's right, to be able to kind of understand the complexity? How might they do that?
Yeah, I'm going to pull up a Toastmaster skill here, which is answering a question, but not really answering your question and going into another direction.
Okay.
because emotional intelligence is exactly what you said, like recognizing your emotion and understanding them. But what I've learned also, and what you introduced me with, is positive intelligence. And positive intelligence is sort of the in my eyes, the master of emotional intelligence.
Oh.
Because then I'm going to talk to you about positive intelligence, and if that answers your question, good. And if it doesn't, I can go forward.
I would love to hear more about positive intelligence.
Oh, I love the puppy behind you.
Yes,
Hi,
that's
puppy.
Guinness. I have 2 dogs.
Wonderful.
So for people who are listening, a dog just walked in the room.
Yes. I heard the tick, tick, tick. So positive intelligence. So what that is it allows you, first of all, to identify the voices we have in our mind. We all have those voices.
Oh, we do.
None of us, unless you're a master Zen master that's been meditating for 50 years and you can quiet your mind for perhaps an hour, which is like, I wish I could sometime. But if we can do it for 15 seconds, it's a bonus.
That's amazing. Yeah.
15 seconds. But then once you recognize, first of all, becoming aware that you have voices. Secondly, is that they're not yours. And third, you can give them a name. So for us in positive intelligence, we call them the saboteurs. And the saboteurs are what they do. That's what they do. They sabotage your life. They sabotage your thinking. They sabotage your way of living. And they play with anger, fear, resentment. They play with all those negative emotions to control you, to manipulate you, to take you in direction that would be suitable for them, but not so much for you.
Yeah.
So that's one part of the saboteurs. And so what we do with positive intelligence is that we learn to recognize them. And secondly, we learn to manage them. We cannot eliminate the voices in our mind. They're always going to be there, but we can muffle them. We can quiet them down. We can tell them, that's okay, I heard you. Thank you. You can go to sleep now. I think I want to go this way. I don't want to listen to what you have to tell me. So there's different ways we can work with those voices to, in some way, it's almost like cohabitate. We can learn to cohabitate, and it's like having a nasty roommate. And you say, okay, we're going to deal with that roommate. We're going to appreciate it for what it is. And we're going to move on and be more positive. So, and once you recognize those voices, once you identify them, we have a test that tells you which saboteur is stronger. For example, some people would be an avoider, would be a victim, a controller, hypervigilant. We all have their name. We give them names. And then the big judge, that's usually the one that says, who do you think you are? Right? So that's the big judge that's like telling you all the things you're doing wrong in your life. And then we have on the other side, on the positive side, we have one sage, which is the nature of who we are. Just like a kids, if you go back to the 5 years old, they're 100% sage. They don't have any learned emotion. They don't have any pattern that they have, like filters that they had in front of their eyes over and over time. They're just there as kids. But the sage, that's what it is. It's your essence. And you learn to go back into that sage. And the sage have 5 powers, and they learn to work with those powers, like explore, innovate, be curious, curiosity, etc. So all of that, once you play with that, then you have your positive intelligence that is using emotional intelligence, to live your life in a more positive and constructive way. So that's how it works together. And finally, what you do with all of that, once you have the saboteurs, you have the sage that you're developing and using, then you got to go to the gym, because you have mental fitness, which is Now that you know how that works, is to build a habit, is to build a mental muscle, to be able to have the strength to, I don't like the word fight, but to fight your saboteurs, to quiet them down, and to be able to have, to make it easy, just like a habit, just one habit after the other. It's like driving your car. So that's my cat you're hearing meowing.
Hello, kitty. All the animals here today.
We love animals. So the way it works with your brain is that we've been accustomed for years and years to think in a negative way. This is the default. And then you have a big neurological pathways on the negative side that is huge. It's like a big highway that's there. So what we do with positive intelligence and working with emotional intelligence and mental fitness and all of that is to create a long, big pathways onto your positive side. So build that neuron that the default now has to be positive. The default's going to go with positive. And that's what makes me a serenity expert, because my default is positive. Like if I look at situation, I'm not doom and gloom and looking at things like, oh, it's so bad. But if it's just like, okay, it's all good. And that's why it's my favorite cup. It's all good.
Oh, I love that expression.
It's written on my cup. It's all good. And that's something I tell myself every day, hundreds of times a day, depending on the situation. It's cold out, but oh, it's all good. I have a warm jacket, you know. And everything can be turned into a gift. So that's when you work on that day after day after day, then what happened is that you develop that big neurological pathways on the positive side, and the negative one is going to crumble down. You don't have to work on eliminating the negative thinking. You just have to put the energy on the positive one.
Yeah, it's like the story of the two wolves that are fighting, and which one is going to live. Feed? It's the one that you feed, and it's the same with developing these
analogy
new
for
habits. Sure. Yeah, and I love that, Denise, and that really, you know, the kind of approach that I take, the structure that I work with is that, you know, we have the paradigms, and the paradigms are the operating system that exists in the subconscious. And so that's where the saboteurs would be, right, showing up. And their job is to just keep us in the comfort zone. And our comfort zone is often not comfortable. Lots of times it sucks, actually, but it's just what we know. And so as we actually start to live into the vision of the positive, right, the positive emotions and the positive intelligence, and the vision of who it is that we're becoming, when we put more energy on that, those saboteurs and paradigms start to dissolve away. But absolutely, it takes rigor, it takes practice. It's like going to the gym. You don't just go to the gym once and boom, you're a fitness model.
It's like taming your dragons. Right?
I'd rather like ride a dragon around than have a dead one, to be honest.
Yeah.
If absolutely. I could choose,
Tame it, you know,
right?
Make it your friend.
Yeah. And so, Denise, what, you know, in your journey of becoming a serenity expert, are there things that you kind of wish you'd known sooner? Or if you could look back and give yourself some advice, what might that be?
I would tell myself that it's all good. Not to worry. There's time where I've been worrying sick about different situations, whether it's relationship and things like that. And things turn out to be okay. You know, if I was my elder self talking to myself, you know, and looking at me when I'm 20 years old, and when I was starting my path of becoming more serene and peaceful, and it's like, you'll be okay. Keep going. Don't worry.
And so then I love that, right? It's all good. It's all good. You're good. And then if we future pace that and imagine yourself 20 years in the future, what message might she have for you today?
I think she would say, we did good. We did good. We did the right thing. We moved in the right direction. You follow your heart. You have slay your dragon or love your dragon or ride your dragon, because I love your analogy of dragon too, because I live alone. Imagine, for those that don't know, Vancouver is super expensive. And I live alone. I have my own condo. I have a car. I have a roof over my head, even though it's leaking today a little bit. But I created all that for myself.
Yeah.
And it has not been always easy.
Yeah.
But I just keep going. Just keep going. Don't stop. Just keep moving. Yeah. Things will happen, and you've done good. That's what she would tell me.
Oh.
They'll be proud of me, I think.
Oh, I can feel that. I could feel that. That's beautiful. And so, Denise, for people who would love to connect with you, how can they find you?
Well, my website is my name. So it's DeniseBelisle.com. So it's spelled Denise, Denise, and the last name is Belisle. Some people would say Belisle, a little bit like Carlisle. So if you can imagine Carlisle, so BELISLE.com, DeniseBelisle.com. And then there you can do, if you're interested in knowing what's your saboteurs, there's a section for a positive intelligence, and you can go do the assessment.
Oh, fun.
And you can also book a call with me, and we can talk about it. We can discuss your assessment and see how the saboteurs are interacting with your brain and how they are creating, AVOC in there.
That is fantastic. And so, as always, I'll put that in the show notes for my listeners. You'll have links there that you can link to. And so, Denise, I would love to thank you for being here today. So appreciated this conversation, and I know I've really taken a lot from it. And to my listeners, I love you, and I'm sending you a big hug. And I would love to ask you to actually support the podcast by leaving a review and a rating, and reach out and let me know what you'd love to hear more of. And I will catch you next time.